Welcome guys, so this was how this came out. I love it so much. I can't stop wearing it because it has become my new favorite top. If you're interested in learning how to, then continue watching. First, we are going to be starting with the cup, and as you can see, I've already cut the pattern paper on my fabric. I've also cut lining fabric for it. Make sure that your lining fabric is lighter than the jean fabric because the jean fabric is already thick. I'm going to take number 1 aside and work on 2 and 3. I'm going to pull out the pattern paper that I already have, and I'll place them according to the direction of the arrows. The reason for placing them according to the direction of the arrows is so that you not get a flat cup. After that, take it over to the sewing machine and sew. This is what we have for the both cups. So the next thing we are going to do now is to top stitch on top of the stitch we already have, because there is a top stitch on the one we are following. So this is what it looks like when we are done top stitching, and this is the back. The next thing you are going to do is to attach 2 and 3 to number 1. Okay, I left the patterns on it for a reason, so I'm just going to take one piece and put it on top of 2 and 3, that is now 1. I hope you understand. So I'm going to pin it down with my pins and then take it over to the sewing machine and sew a straight stitch all on the top. So this is what we have when I was done with both of the cups, and as you can see, there is room for my boots to sit. We are going to be working on the center front now, and I'm going to bring in the pattern we are following. There's a 1-inch allowance at the center that the buttons will sit. So let me bring the center front and place it exactly the way it's supposed to be. You can see the 1/2 inch allowance I gave on each of the sides, and you can see the 2-inch allowance I gave for my buttons. All right, so what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to remove the 2 inches that I gave. So a simple way and an accurate way I did this was just to mark where the original center front stops. So as you can see, it's exactly 2 inches. So that 2 inches is where the button allowance is going to be. So what I'm doing right here is that I'm marking 1 inch that I'm going to use to fold it over to the other side. I'm just doing this so that I'll have something straight and accurate. As you can see, I folded that 1 inch mark that I made to the other side, and thereafter I ironed the 1 inch inwards. Okay, this is just to make it easier for me to fold. So I'm going to take them to the sewing machine and fold it inwards like this, so it's not going to fray. If you have a weaving machine, you can just weave and sew, no need to fold it inwards, but I don't have, that's why I used it. So when I was done, this is what it looks like. It's looking beautiful already. So now that I'm done with the center front, I'm just going to keep it aside and work on the side front. So I'm just putting my pattern paper so you would see what I'm doing and exactly what I am working with. Now I'm going to bring in my center front and put it exactly like this. Okay, and then I'll place them right sides facing each other according to their positions, and then I'll sew with 1/2 inch because that's what I gave for it. There's not going to be boning for this, so because it's already a thick fabric, there won't be any need for boning. So this is it when I was done. I'm just going to go over to the sewing machine and make a top stitch on it because that is what we are following, and there's a top stitch on the model that we are trying to imitate. So this is it when I was done. I enjoyed the whole process for this because all through it was looking really beautiful, and considering the fact that I'm making this from scratch. I'll bring the cup in now to attach it to the center front, and a good way I find you can do this is to first of all make sure it's aligning top stitch to top stitch. The top stitch on the top should align with the top stitch on the center front. Make sure that the joining you have on cup 1 and 2 is aligning with the joining you have on the side front and the center front. When you are done pinning, take it over to the sewing machine. Start from the center to the right side at the top, and then from the center again to the left side, just the way you see me directing. That's how you would get something accurate, and the cup will not be longer than the shirt. The next thing to do now is to make a top stitch all around the cup region. That's both of the sides. So this is what we have when we were done. Okay, if it was a blue fabric, it will be more obvious, but this is black. We are going to be working on the center back now. I choose to use loop, but for you, you can use zip, just anything that you want to do. I'm just going to leave ½ inch at the top, and I'll also leave ½ inch at the bottom. This is to enable me sew them when I want to close up the top and the bottom of the corset. So as you can see, I'm leaving ½ inch on both sides, and I'm just going to determine how the spacing of my loops. So I'm just going to be spacing them 1.1 for the left side and also for the right side. I spread them with 1.1 each. Place your loops. The loops I cut, they are 2 inches long. Place your loops on the mark you have. Take it over to the sewing machine and sew tight stitch on it. I am done with that, and as you can see, the ½ inch I gave at the bottom and the ½ inch I gave at the top also. So I'm going to bring in my side back and place them on the right sides, and then I will lay my side back on top of the center back, right sides facing each other. I'll take it over and sew a straight line on each of those sides to cover it up, and make sure when you are sewing you sew tight stitch on it. So I'm going to be joining the back and the front piece now since I'm done with them. So I'll lay my front piece down, both of them, and I'll place my back piece on top of it, right sides facing each other. And right after that, I'll sew the sides with 1 inch because that was the allowance I gave, but after sewing it was too much. So I went ahead to just take my body measurements on the cloth and then sew, so that I'll not have any trouble with it. So just make sure you get your body measurements, because once we attach the lining, it will be quite difficult to, adjust your body shape again. So when you are done sewing, it's going to look something like this. I'll just go over to the sewing machine now and sew on the sides, and this is what we have. This is what yours is supposed to look like, if not even better. It should not look less, it should look more beautiful than this. So when I wore it, or when I tested it, I noticed that the armhole was too up. So I'm just trying to trim off the part so that it's going to fit perfectly well with my armhole, and it's not going to discomfort me in any way. I am having this issue because when I was cutting, I did not slant my armhole downwards. So when you are cutting yours, just make sure you slant your armhole downwards, and you're not going to have this problem I have now. I was really happy with what I have. It was looking neat and it was making me proud already. One thing I noticed about being a fashion designer is patience. Or if you dey work, just calm down and do your work well. It's going to come out very well. Once you start rushing or being agitated for it, you are going to make mistakes. So I'm just going to keep that aside and work on my strap. So my strap is 13 inches long and 1.5 inches wide. This is how the placement is going to be. I'm going to measure 1 inch away from the side of my cup. I'll take my stripe and I'll put it after the 1 inch mark. Okay, I'll also make the description with the other one so you'd understand it better. So on your cup, that's towards the side, not the one going towards the center front, the cup side going towards the side, you are going to measure 1 inch inwards, and you are going to place your stripe after the 1 inch, not on top of the 1 inch, but after the 1 inch. So that's how I did mine, that I loved. So just make sure you do something like that, or anyhow you want it to be. So the way you are going to place it on the back is that you are going to place it in between the loops. Okay, we are going to place it in between the center back and the side back. The next thing for us to do now is to attach our lining, and like I said before, whatever you do for the main fabric, also do it for the lining, with the exceptions of your loops and the ends also. So place the lining and the main fabric right sides facing each other, but make sure that the ends, you bring them downward so that your lining fabric and the main fabric would sandwich the ends, and so that when you bring it out, you are going to have something that I'll show you what it looks like anyway. So I'm just going to pin them down at the top now, and thereafter I'll take it over to the sewing machine and sew on top. After sewing it up, you are going to make top stitch on it, which I've already done before, and this is what it look like. And probably you can't see it because of the black material, but I've already made top stitch on it. So I'm just going to sew on top of the center front, okay, and then the side front also. So I'm just going to be sewing on top of them like that. So I'm done sewing on top of those points, okay, so that it's just going to stay in place. I sew the center front and also the side back a little, but I didn't sew on top of the back, if you get what I'm saying. But just do whatever you desire, okay? So the next thing that I'm going to do now is to cover the bottom of it. So I'm just going to bring my real fabric and the lining and place them right sides facing each other like this, okay? When you are sewing this, I'm sure you know what to do. Just bring them right sides facing each other, and also as if you are sandwiching the ends also, and you're going to sew at the bottom, but make sure you leave a space that you're going to use to turn it out. I've already turned mine out. I left space at the bottom, which I'm going to top stitch to close, and this is actually what it looks like. There is nothing much to do, and if you so desire, you can sew on top of it. You can sew on top of the sewing you have at the bottom, so you'd have everything in place and the lining won't be coming out, like, you get. So the next thing that I'm going to do is to close up the space that is going to be on the button side right there. I'm just going to sew on top of both sides, and when you are done, go ahead and put your buttons. I'd advise you not to put press button, because that was what I did, and I later regretted it because it just kept on pulling. I changed it to buttons later on. This is the final outcome, guys. I am obsessed. Abeg, nyashi na nyashi, nyashi na nyashi. Look at the top, okay? Don't mind. Don't look at what I'm showing you. I know there's nothing there. The shirt is giving. Even why do I keep turning my back? Like, oh, the loops at the back. Everything is giving. All right. Subscribe, like, and comment. Bye bye, guys.